All right, yeah, how's it going? This is the Free Speech or Bust podcast. I'm your host, Logan J. Ramsey. Follow me on Twitter at FPLogan64. Podcast has Twitter now. That's at Free Speech or Bust. That's bus, not bust. Twitter will not allow us to make it that long. That's just another case of their censorship against conservatives. With us, as always, is Luke Oliver. How's it going? I'm not sure what your Twitter is. It's a bunch of numbers.
I'll put it in the description later.
It's like at Luke9898. Well, anyways, special guest, Andrew Powell. How's it going?
Not too bad. How about yourself, man?
Yeah, I've been going pretty good. I ate some spaghetti and meatballs this afternoon. How does that sound?
All I had was a ham sandwich, so it's a lot better than what I was doing.
Well, is ham sandwich, would you consider that an American dish?
I don't see why not. I guess it would be, wouldn't it?
Nah, I guess so.
How many people have conversations about what kind of dish a ham sandwich is?
Have you ever done any other podcast before?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because we're not very conventional. We don't do things the proper way. Some would say that is a flaw. I would argue it's just a sign of our character.
And being
So
original.
you're in reference to the type of conversations, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I don't know if you guys. I originally got my start in sports journalism.
No kidding.
And I got into sports radio because I used to be a huge fan of Dan Le Batard. I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Le Batard or not.
I'm not.
But Dan Le Batard, instead of talking about sports, they get into all these odd conversations. So trust me, the lane that you are telling me that your show is in, I'm pretty familiar with it. So it's not a problem, but it does throw me off, and it does have me thinking now, what kind of dish is a ham sandwich? It's actually a very interesting question.
Exactly. What is the first guy that had a loaf of bread? Because bread used to just come in loaves. It wasn't always sliced. What's the first guy who, eventually they started cutting them, and then I think in the 50s they just produced pre-sliced bread. Who's the first guy that had slices of ham and put that on there? Probably put some honey mustard or something. Was honey mustard even a thing back then? And then he just went at it.
Yeah, and I won't even know how to answer that question. Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, do you know the answer to that question, or are you just asking us hoping that we know?
I don't know. I was hoping someone would know.
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea.
Is the ham sandwich American? Is that what the whole point of this conversation is?
Yes, let's stick to the root cause of the conversation. Is the ham sandwich an American dish?
The all-American ham sandwich of multi-grain bread is a classic, made with a tangy spread, lettuce, tomatoes, sometimes with a slice of cheese to everybody's different opinions.
Oh my goodness. So it is an American dish. A lot of Mexican food I think is American, because I'm pretty like in America you go to a Mexican restaurant and they'll serve you like beef tacos or beef burritos. I'm pretty sure in Mexico they don't even have a lot of beef. It's mostly just chicken down there.
This is investigative journalism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, you were saying that I'm trying to be somewhat formal. No, you were saying that you got your start in sports journalism.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So pretty much my story is, I originally got my start overall in entertainment in the music industry, and I lost my passion for that. Kind of got into sports journalism, and that's where my whole journalism career began. And basically, I started a little blog, and that little blog actually led me to an actual sports writer job at a local newspaper, and then that job eventually led me to a sports editor job at another local newspaper. But then when the campaign came, and I also did sports radio as well. I used to do a Monday through Friday show for a couple of years. Actually.
No kidding.
When 2016 came around, however, changed the game completely. Lost my passion and interest in sports. That completely depleted. it got even worse when everything politicized when Trump was elected, and we had the whole Colin Kaepernick issue.
Yeah.
This year, but eventually got to a point where it was like, wow, like sports look so small when you get into politics, and especially when you get quote unquote red pilled. And once you get red pilled, you cannot go back. You see things completely differently, and it's like sports. The significance of sports it lacks. There's nothing there for me anymore. So eventually, I made the full transition over to political journalism. And my first venture into that is me and a couple of friends got together. Me, a right-winger, and a lefty, believe it or not. And we started a little media company called the South Beach Times. It was Miami-based, but it had a national appeal to it. It wasn't just Miami news.
Mm-hmm.
It basically, with South Beach Times, we started a radio show, weekend radio show called Unpopular Popularity. It was me, Kelvin Gravely, and John Stutzman. We did a few shows. It just didn't work out because of the leftist attitude that Kelvin had and the right-wing attitudes that we had. It just was not working out well.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually we moved on from that, and then, believe it or not, and it was funny because I was telling this story to somebody earlier, I had actually started an independent third party, an actual political party.
Oh,
And
shit.
it was called the Champions Party. Yeah. But as time went on... Yeah, but as time went along, though, I realized that I myself wasn't a candidate, and I am not a political party leader. I am very, very opinionated.
Uh-huh.
I can get involved in campaigns. Like I'm a campaign manager now for a U.S. Senate campaign.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that on your Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get more into that if you want as well later on. But I figured out as time went along, as opinionated as I am, and as aggressive as I want to be on topics such as Islam and pedophilia and Satanism and all this crazy lunacy that the left is pushing out. It's just where was I going with that? Kind of lost track of thought because of the question you asked me. But anyways, I had eventually got to the point where I realized I wasn't a candidate. So talked to my people. I said, well, let's rebrand it into an actual media company. This is how Powell Media came to birth. I said, let's rebrand it into something. And we tried to think of a name. Everybody was coming up with names. I was coming up with names, but nothing really stuck. And then somebody had told me, you know what, just call it Powell Media. I mean, you've already built a brand name for yourself as it is. You got a little base. So go, just name it that. People already know who you are. We'll use it and it'll be good to go. Powell Media was born. We rebranded the whole website, switched the whole look up, and that was, early October, maybe late September when we did that. And yeah, that eventually led me here. And then about a month ago, as far as the campaign manager gig is concerned, Latricia had actually contacted me via Facebook. And she had been following me on Facebook for quite some time, and she had been paying attention because she was looking for a campaign manager, and she was paying attention to a few different people. And I was one of those people, and she happened to contact me and let me know that she was interested in me being her campaign manager. We had a phone conversation. She got me to send over my resume, took a look over it, and eventually brought me on board as her campaign manager. That's been going on for a month now. Been real aggressive with that. So basically, everything I got going on is obviously editor-in-chief of Powell Media. I like to kind of compare myself, obviously with not the same significance, but a little version of Steve Bannon or a little version of Roger Stone, where I can be in the media but also be a political operative at the same time. A little bit of a combination. Plus, this isn't my first campaign. I was also the marketing director for the Republican Party in New York City earlier in the summer as well. So this definitely isn't my first rodeo when it comes to campaigns. So I do a little bit of both, campaigning. Now, I've never really been involved with a cabinet or anything. I'm not really interested in working for the government and living off the taxpayer.
Oh, yeah.
I like to preserve my private citizen status. Therefore, that allows me to be opinionated and also allows me to do what I want to do without being criticized.
Yeah, and like when you yourself are in charge and editor-in-chief of Powell Media, you can't be fired for something you say.
Exactly, exactly. So it's like, well, I'm my own boss. I make my own money, whether it's through advertising or whether it's through merchandise selling it through the store, whatever it may be. So it's like, and I'm allowed to be as opinionated as I'm. So, and it works. Obviously, I've built a nice little base. My base continues to grow a little bit. I keep getting gigs. I mean, I got offered another job today. I don't want to name names because we're still in conversation for me to do a little role. But he offered me, and he's running for California Congress. He wants me to help out with his campaign. So things are definitely building. Things are looking good. That's for sure. And it's a great time to be alive, especially in this political climate and with everything that I have got going on, and all the people that I know that have stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I remember my Uncle Rich, he was running for judge of Amherst, Ohio. It was a very small town. It's not to the level of New York City or nothing. I obviously I was a young kid, so I'd never actually helped with managing his campaign. But I would have to like walk around like at parades and stuff, hand out candy and blow balloons and stuff. I remember it being the worst thing ever. I hated it so much. And he's running for something again, and they're asking me if I'd be interested in doing parades and stuff. I'm like, no. He's a good guy. I don't want to. Parades are not my thing. I don't think anyone votes based upon a parade. So.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's all about policies for me, at least.
Exactly. I'd much rather just read about the guy. What does he stand for? Than his nephew gave me candy.
Yeah, when it comes to elections and what people vote for, what people look for, it all boils down to charisma. You can win people over with charisma, but at the same time, though, with the nationalist populists rising and even the far left populist movement rising with Bernie Sanders and those loons over there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people are paying more attention to policies, and I think that with Trump, it was a mixture of charisma. The charisma ability, it still has to be there, but the populace has awoken up to you have to deliver on policies, because if you pay attention to a lot of Trump's base, they've been extraordinarily loyal to him, but they've also been critical of him when they needs to be. Like Aaron Coulter, bless her heart, every single day on Twitter for months, she was on there just, have we built a wall yet? I mean,
yeah.
Like, what's going on with the wall? Why haven't we started building the wall? And a lot of people have been critical. I've been super critical of Trump when it came to health care, when that whole fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the good thing about this, though. We have an awakened populace with this whole thing, but there still has to be charisma there. There has to be a nice balance. And that's what's going to make American politics even better. You have to have the nice balance of charisma, and now you have to have policies, and you have to deliver on them.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's funny you mentioned Ann Coulter. I remember I read one of her books. This was only a few months ago. I read one of her books, and my English teacher, she wanted to do like not a book report, but like a book talk where we all sit in a circle like hippies and talk about the books we read. I remember the only book I had read was Treason by Ann Coulter. And that I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but it's basically how the Democratic Party does not stand for American values. And this was written during the Bush era. This was like 2003. And that book was interesting because there was a lot of similarities between what she was describing almost 2 decades ago and what is happening right now. But I remember she got super mad at me. She was trying to debate me and stuff about the book I read. But I had prepared.
Didn't she almost give you a bad grade for that?
No, she gave me a full grade. She gave me a full grade. But I had like notes and stuff ready because I knew she was going to try and do it.
There's a story about her from 2 years ago. Did you hear that she went insane on one of the seniors this year when he was a sophomore?
What?
And, like,
Why?
He had to get, because he read and did his book talk on a book that was basically about how men are better than women and everything.
That's funny.
The principal had to start grading his shit because she would flunk him on everything.
Really?
From then on out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't remember what the kid's name. Some kid was telling me about how like last year, she had a calendar. So basically, one of her kids has some sort of mental illness, but she had like a calendar with pictures of kids with like Down syndrome and stuff. And some kid is telling me that he like made a joke about it or like laughed at it, and she like flipped out on him. And like, I apologize because I don't have the video for this one. DroidCam's gonna give me a lot of shit. I can't really figure that out. But she makes this like Hillary Clinton type face towards him, and starts freaking out about. Well, my kid is that you can't laugh at that. It's not funny. And one of my essays I actually used the word retarded, but my friend Josh, he's told me to take that out. So I put mentally in front of it.
It's not very politically correct there, man.
Yeah, well, mentally retarded. Mentally retarded is like an actual medical term.
Oh, I know. No, I know. You're preaching to the choir here. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you two know that, but there's got to be one idiot listening that doesn't know that. So to get into some of our topics that we are going to discuss, 16 minutes in, Jerusalem.
Would you like to first, Logan?
Yeah, I just said Jerusalem. Trump wants to move the United States Embassy to Jerusalem in order to recognize it as the official capital of Israel. Opinions?
Go ahead. My opinion is Trump's finally delivering what the past two presidents and probably more have promised.
No, since Bill Clinton.
Allies. Oh, Bill Clinton agreed to
Actually,
that?
I think George Sr. even said that he would try and recognize Israel as the official capital. I'm not sure about George Sr., but I know Bill Clinton and Bush and Obama, and now Trump is actually hopefully doing something about it. Exactly. What's so stupid is people saying that, well, if he does that, then the Palestinians are going to commit terrorism. Oh, yeah. Now they're going to start being terrorists. Yeah, it's not like haven't been doing that for, the past millennia. Since day one. It's in their book. I was telling my mom this. I said, if Muhammad were alive today, he would have us both killed. But thankfully, he's not alive today. He's burning in hell, as one might believe.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this whole Jerusalem thing, when I first found out the news, I thought it was outstanding. It was glorious. I couldn't have been happier about it, and because it's not even this. First off, this is certainly biblical. This is straight up prophecy fulfilled. I believe in that stuff. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, I do.
Some of the
I do.
Stuff. Yeah, like this is certainly biblical, and this definitely moves us to the next step of God's agenda. Certainly. But another takeaway from this that made me very, very happy about it is that it triggered every single Muslim. It triggered every single member of the alt-right, who I'm not necessarily a fan of.
No, I'm not an alt-right guy.
Some leftists out there like to accuse me of being alt-right, and I've had articles written about me where I've been accused of being alt-right, and I am not alt-right, especially considering I'm part Jewish.
Yeah, none of us here are alt-right, I don't think.
Jewish. Yeah, I like to claim the new right, so I want to get that.
Or alt-light.
Right now. I'm
like the ring of that.
Too big into the label of the alt-light, but I like the new right.
Well, the problem is with the new right is the alt-light is the nickname the alt-right gives us, so it's best to use that as a way to distinguish us from them. Because
I don't like to, but here's the thing: I prefer to be in mainstream Republican politics. I don't want to be alt anything.
True.
Alt-right, no. And plus, there was already an original New Right movement in the Barry Goldwater days, starting in 1964. It's the second New Right movement instead of the alt-right movement, which, in my opinion, is nothing but a Soros plant. These are actual leftists disguised as right-wingers. These are people put in place by people like George Soros to make the right wing look like that we're evil, white, supreme Nazi killers, and it's the furthest thing from the truth. That's all the alt-right is. They are not conservatism. They are not right-wing, and quite honestly, they're fraud. They're complete fraud. They hate people. They hate me because I happen to be part. For one, I'm majority German, but they hate me because I'm part Jewish. But I'm majority German. You see the inconsistencies with these people, and then they hate one of my friends as well, who also has a YouTube page, gets thousands of views on every single video, and they troll him consistently because he happens to be a black conservative.
Oh my God.
They're a very, very small fringe group of people.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of frauds. They're a Soros plant. That's all the alt-right is.
Do you think that, like, Charlottesville, what happened there, do you think that was fake?
Do I think it was fake? The actual killing, I want to be very, very clear with this, the actual murder and stuff, no, that is not fake. That is actually real. But it has already been proven. What's her name? Laura, she goes on InfoWars all the time. Laura Loomer or something? I can't think of her name.
That name sounds familiar. That might be her.
She had she had already proved that all of these people were paid by people like George Soros or groups connected to George Soros. These are all leftist plants. They were leftist plants. They were put there to make the right wing look bad.
Holy shit.
I will say this: Richard Spencer only that is wing with his ideology. I don't think that he is a Soros plant. Plus, I believe he grew up in a rich family, so he's always had money and always been able to fund his own stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'll give him that, even though I don't agree with Richard Spencer on a lot of stuff. But as far as the Charlottesville thing, absolutely, that was a Soros plant.
So like the dudes walking around with tiki torches, those guys were planted?
Soros plants, absolutely.
I think I've heard that conspiracy before.
I don't think it's a conspiracy, though. I think that's already been proven. The fact that a lot of these leaders have already been linked to leftist, radical leftist groups and groups that have been funded by George Soros. When there's already connections out there like that have been verified, and that's the evidence right there, I don't understand how people are still labeling that as a conspiracy when there's blatant evidence to support that.
Well, I do agree with you that a lot of I think Soros does pay for a lot of these protests that you're seeing from liberals.
Of course he does.
I mean,
do you know the report about how he invested $18 billion in his hedge fund just to try to take out Trump? $18 billion. That is insane.
How did he even get his money? How did he get his money?
To be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure. I just know he has a bunch of corporations. What corporation that he has in particular, I know, is actually in control of, what is it, like 45% of the election booths in the country? 45%?
Holy
that
shit.
Is insane. Like how? What I don't understand about George Soros is how was one man able to have so much power? Why are we using all of his? Why is half of the nation using his voting booth? Why is this man able to have so much power, not just in America, but he's also able to have power in the European Union? He's already taken down Ukraine, put them through an economic crisis. I believe he was also responsible for the debt crisis in Greece. This man has been all over the world causing economic havoc, trying to take everybody down, trying to cause instability to bring us to the ultimate goal of globalism. But the beautiful thing about the American populace is that everybody is waking up to his BS. Everybody is seeing the nonsense. You have outlets, wonderful, actual, beautiful news, real news outlets like InfoWars, Breitbart, reporting this stuff, exposing, even the Daily Wire, I've seen them on, exposing George Soros and this nonsense. Even Fox News has been, and you even see leaders like Hungary putting up posters all over the country saying, what can we do? Help us take out George Soros.
Yeah.
You have leaders like Poland. It's sorry to keep going, but it's just the whole world as a whole is waking up to Soros. It's honestly a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at, okay, you mentioned Hungary, right? Well, this guy was born in Hungary. I guess he came over to the States. He basically, he's a businessman. He does business stuff. But apparently he made most of his money just investing. He was also a philanthropist, which means he gives people money for his bidding. And also, he has a lot of books. The Alchemy of Finance, Soros on Soros. Soros on Globalization. Oh, that's a fucking good read. The Bubble of American Supremacy by George Soros. So I don't know. Read those books if you're interested. Though I don't. This guy's 87 years old. He probably writes like an old man.
Yeah, but the thing with that, and I hear a lot of people say, well, we don't have to worry about him that much longer because he's 87, he's about to die. Now, we still have to worry about his sons. And there's already been documentation as well that Ivanka Trump, well, I don't think necessarily Ivanka Trump personally, but Jared Kushner has been directly connected to the Soros sons, where they have received the money. And I believe those documents ended up being verified. They have connections, and now it's gotten to the point, because why is Jared Kushner giving all of this bad advice to Trump consistently? And he was the one that made the call to order Michael Flynn to call Russia. It ended up getting Michael Flynn in trouble. And now it's gotten to the point, and I believe the Daily Caller was the outlet that reported it, that Trump wants Jared Kushner out now. And I think that Jared Kushner should have never been in there from the get-go. And why do they have connections to the Soros sons? Why is Jared Kushner receiving millions of dollars from the Soros sons? Why is this happening? That's something that really isn't being talked about, but at the same time, why do I expect the mainstream media to talk about
Oh, exactly. And that's one of the worst things about the Donald Trump administration is their PR. A great example of that is the firing of James Comey, right? Like
yeah.
the timing of that was what killed it. Personally, yeah, James Comey, they should have fired him day one. They shouldn't have waited till he's claiming to go and investigate Trump Russia, then fire him. That's the stupidest thing you can do. You need to be smart about that. That's the worst part about the Trump administration is their PR.
Yeah, another thing with the whole with a PR issue that happened just a couple of weeks ago when he was honoring the Native Americans, and you had a portrait of Andrew Jackson in the background, who was the one responsible for the Trail of Tears. What genius decided to let that happen? I mean, I agree with you that Trump's PR team definitely does need a lot of work.
Exactly. God, that whole thing where he called Elizabeth Warren, where he called her Pocahontas. That was fantastic. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was great. Oh yeah, it was absolutely great. It was glorious. It was glorious. And as far as that whole thing, that I found funny from it is when she went on CNN and had the audacity to say that it was a racial slur.
Oh my God, Pocahontas is.
Call you Pocahontas, and I want to make it clear to people out there now. That term, the reason why Trump calls her Pocahontas is because she lied about being a Native American to further her career.
Exactly.
That's why. It has nothing to do with a racial slur.
And
it's incredible, the propaganda that the left.
If you don't believe that her and people like if you don't believe that her claim to be Indian and Sean King, that's his name, the guy that says he's black.
Yeah.
All right. If you don't believe that coming out as a minority can help your career, I'll give you a perfect example of that. All right. My mom's because of my mom's family, I believe a quarter or Hispanic, and my older brother Brandon, he goes to college. And he got a scholarship, a minority scholarship, purely because of his race. All right, they gave him money not because my brother's a very smart guy. He did very well in school. They gave him money not because of any of his academic achievements, not because of any awards he's earned, not because of his GPA, but because of his race, something completely out of his control. They feel it's necessary to give money. And my mom got in a heated argument with me about it because she was telling me, well, there was a time when blacks and Hispanics and Asians weren't afforded the same rights as whites. I said, you're absolutely right. But it's 2017, as Justin Trudeau will point out. It's current year. We can do away with all that. We can do away with affirmative action. We can. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Here's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, that,
In my lifetime, I've seen more race in America. I've seen more racism in Africa against whites than any other race. Unpopular opinion, but I'm throwing it out there.
yep.
All right. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, I
Oh
absolutely
God.
agree with you. That's one thing that I've never. That's. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. You just you like took a deep breath and you started off screaming and it startled me. Keep going.
Oh, my bad.
No,
Oh, my bad.
you're fine.
I
It's
was
completely
I'm
fine.
over here in a deep conversation, man. My apologies for that.
No, you're getting
But
excited. It's perfectly fine.
anyways, absolutely. I got a similar passion to Alex Jones, man. I can't lie. Where I just can sit here and you get me going about politics, and I'll keep going and going and going.
Yeah,
And
we're
I'll
at
get
the
passionate
we're at the
somehow.
30-minute
I'm
mark.
not
We've
gonna
only
lie.
got like two of our topics. We're almost like halfway done. We can keep going as long as you want though. It don't mind me. Last week was our longest podcast. We did about 3 hours.
I could go as long. I could go as long as you guys want me, so it's all good.
No, you're pretty
But
great.
what were we talking about? What was the conversation?
About affirmative action and minority scholarships.
Way with affirmative action.
Yeah, and that's why I'm glad to see Jeff Sessions aggressive with that, trying to eliminate that with the whole race thing. And that's one thing that I've never understood with when it comes to this country. And what it all boils down to is just indoctrination. People are indoctrination, or indoctrinated, I should say. There's a lot of propaganda coming from the mainstream media of where white people are this, white people are that, white people are the new terrorists, white people are responsible for the destruction of this. And honestly, I mean, it all boils down to this: jealousy. Why? Who founded civilization? You guys want to answer that?
I think it was some I think it was some white dudes with crowns of leaves and berries. They were wearing tunics, had a lot of gold and
So basically, the whole point, though, of especially when it comes to the United States of America, was it was straight Christian white men who founded the United States of America and who eventually got to the point of of how Western civilization became what it was, or what it is, I should say. And a lot of people on the left are jealous of that. And the reason why I say that is because I hear a lot of minorities, whether they're black or Hispanic, it doesn't matter, Asian, who are on the right, always say the same thing. The white man created this civilization. This is how it is. That's how it is. And every race partake in slavery. So I don't want to hear this, white people
Yeah.
are bad, white people are evil, especially when you have a white genocide currently going on in South Africa right now, where you
Yeah.
have Africans absolutely slaughtering whites. You have massive slavery going on in Libya right now with Muslims enslaving Africans. Nobody wants to talk about that. And that's what I don't, and I've been really, really aggressive towards Black Lives Matter. And that's one of the
as you should.
I don't understand their whole ideology, because they sit there and say Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But here's the thing, and I'm going to use some talking points here, but they're correct talking points. Black on black violence, silent. But when, I believe the rapper Kevin Gates said it best, but when a white boy does something, everybody want to go hoot and hop. I mean, absolutely. And then complete silence on the slavery towards Africans in the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't realize the word slavery.
It's about the genocide.
The word slavery actually comes from like Slavic. It's because I believe it was Arabs enslaved the Slavs. So let me clear it up. That's brown people enslaving non-brown people. I'm just putting it in terms simple enough for a liberal to understand. Muslims started the slave trade. All right. Do you know who ended the slave trade? Well, let you know. Over 600,000 Americans died in the 1800s to end slavery in just one country. 600,000 lives to end slavery. You know how many slaves there currently are today? 45 million. All right, so if you want to, what I'm saying, my point in bringing all that up is, if you have a problem with slavery, then be against it, all right? Don't be against the historical fact that, yes, there was a dark time in America where in certain states you were allowed to own a slave. So if you're against that, as everyone should be be against the 45 million slaves that there currently are, mostly in India and in the Middle East. It's just those are facts.
And also, Wano mentioned that when the Civil War started, Wano mentioned that the fact that when the Civil War started, 27% of the slave owners were black. Why aren't we discussing that?
Yeah, and it's not like they only enslaved black people. I think they had, I don't know if they had more Irish than blacks, but I know what they did with the Irish is like black slaves were considered more valuable because working out on the boats in like the hot Georgia sun, like an Irish guy is gonna get boils and burnt, but a black guy from Africa, it's not gonna affect his skin the same way that it's gonna affect some pasty white Irish boy. So they did place higher value on the black slaves than the Irish ones.
Absolutely. But there's no mention of that, though.
No.
There's no mention of that whatsoever.
No, because it goes against the narrative that they've been building up. Like you just said, it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit the narrative that they've been building up for in public schools and in media for the past however many decades. Oh my God, I cannot believe how long we're doing right now. Luke, if you want to bring up your next topic. Andrew, just finish your point.
I'll finish this real quick. Ultimately, what this leads down to is the elimination of Christianity. They want to get rid of Christianity, get rid of whites. It makes it much easier to get rid of Christianity, and then they could go ahead and implement their Satanism and their pedophilia and their globalism and all the nonsense, radical, evil stuff that they want to do. It's what it all boils down to. It's not necessarily that they want to get rid or hate whites. It's that they want to get rights so they can make strides to get rid of Christianity. That's what it all boils down to.
Oh yeah, I believe that 100%. All right, Luke, what's your topic that you had? It'd be nice if we were a lot more organized on this.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. I believe this is episode 14.
Has to do with a beautiful. It is. It has a beautiful little thing called cryptocurrency which goes by the name of Bitcoin.
Well, Bitcoin is just one of the many cryptocurrencies.
Right now. Well, one of them.
Yeah.
But holy shit. Just one of them is going to cost you about $15,000 right now.
Really? I remember watching something on Bitcoin like a year or two ago. It was like $300 something. Jeez, oh man, that's insane. Andrew, do you know a lot about Bitcoin?
Honestly, I just got done having this conversation with somebody just the other day, and I asked them what Bitcoin was, and they couldn't tell me either in the conversation ended there. So
it's very confusing. It's very confusing. It can be used. It can be used as.
But what is cryptocurrency?
Okay, so to understand that is to just understand basically it. Again, I don't know as much about this as some other people, but from what I understand, all right, we need to start with just what currency is. Like we use, I mean, I'm sure all three of us just use American dollars, right? Those bills.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that the only reason a dollar bill has any value is because we all agree that it is worth $1, right? So basically, with Bitcoin it can be used as a currency for like different transactions and stuff, but it's best to just be an investment. So like the more money that people are putting into it, then I think the more it's worth. I know there's a thing called Bitcoin mining where you basically just go. There's this thing where there's like it's just 25 Bitcoins, and you all put in your computers and whatnot. And the way to get them is to like find like the key or the code or whatever. And so they just have everyone's computer goes together and works to try and find what this random code is. And then once someone's computer finds that code, they split the 25 Bitcoins amongst everyone. That's one way to get it, or another way is to just like buy it. Like if I had $15,000, I could just buy that. That's
The good thing is
almost all I understand about Bitcoin.
parts.
Yeah, it's not like
They either put in a lot of hard work or pay a lot of money.
yeah. Well, the reasoning for it,
Definition.
the reasoning for it is so that people have a currency that does not rely on the government.
Yeah, it's right in the definition right here. A cryptocurrency is a digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds, operating independently of a central bank.
Now,
An example, decentralized cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin now provide an outlet for personal wealth that is beyond restriction and confiscation. And that brings me into a second part. There's this Bitcoin mining service, like you mentioned earlier, Logan, called NiceHash, and it's based in Slovakia. And basically, they were hacked, and they lost 4,700 bitcoins, which translates into roughly more than $62 million.
oh my gosh.
That's a lot of. That's a.
Yeah.
Damn. Well, it's funny you mentioned Bitcoin, Luke.
I was a hacker.
A couple weeks ago. Okay, so you guys understand. I may have said this before on the podcast, but I'm sure Andrew doesn't know. My stepmother's parents own 2 ice cream shops in Lorain, Ohio, right? And my stepmom is the manager of one. My dad, he works at a steel mill to make most of his money. But every now and again he'll come and he'll help out with the ice cream shop. They asked me what Bitcoin was, and I explained to them pretty much what I explained to you, and that how some businesses do accept it, but it's mostly just an investment. So their point, I guess their small business point of view. They're almost as conservative as I am. So to give you more of an idea of where they're coming from, also as small business owner, they said that they wouldn't accept it, that they would not accept Bitcoin because it's not taxed or nothing, which was really interesting to me because a lot of the times, I mean, I've heard them tell me that they're for Trump's tax plan, cutting the corporate tax rate by 20%, by half, I should say. It's going from 40 to 20%, I believe. That was super interesting to me to hear that.
35 to 20.
Is that it? Okay. Well, it was just interesting because how often do you hear conservatives in favor of something being taxed? You know what I mean?
Not very much.
And I think
I hate it when stuff is taxed.
yeah, I think we're all realizing right now none of us have any clue what we're talking about.
Nope, not
When it
at all.
comes,
I'm
when it
just
comes
saying-
to
I just
when it
think
comes to
that-
Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I don't know much.
No, yeah, that's why I did not bring this up. That's why Luke did.
I'm just waiting for that bubble to bust.
Oh yeah,
We talked about it in a class called Career Exploration for like 2 days straight. And
Really?
none of us still have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
this teacher probably don't even fucking understand it. It's
No,
way
the
too nerdy
teacher
for me.
didn't even bring it up. We did, and we just talked about it.
That's hilarious.
Oh. Well, hopefully we can grasp this next topic a little more. How do you guys want to talk about accused sexual offenders? Namely, Roy Moore and Al Franken.
Very. I just watched the Crowder episode on.
Here's the thing. I believe the allegations against Roy Moore, and here's why. The allegations do seem credible on their own, but he's like flipped the script on it. At first he was saying that he did know the accusers, and now he's saying that he doesn't know any of them. It just as soon as you start changing the story like that, I kind of think you're full of shit. And then Al Franken, honestly, if you look at what the accusations are, the ones against Roy Moore are a lot worse than Al Franken. Like, okay, people keep bringing up that picture where he's like pretending to grow up that woman's boobs. That in my opinion, that's not even bad. Like if he actually went up to someone while she was sleeping and started touching on her, that's bad. But that picture alone isn't bad. Now, groping and touching women unconsensually, that's bad. That
Making
Yeah, that is not as bad as pedophilia, in my opinion.
When it comes to the Roy Moore thing, though, what is your? And I'm not saying you're wrong, but what is your source as far as he originally said that he knew these women? Because I have not heard this. Not again, not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I just have not heard this.
Uh, well, I don't have a source. I guess I can just look this up. Now, the real predicament is assuming.
Come on, Logan. Come on.
Sorry, I don't just have sources for everything I say, but the real thing you have to wonder with this is let's just let's just assume that these allegations against Roy Moore are true. Where it comes to is, do you still want him, to win this election? Do you want? Okay, so would you rather have someone who stands for what you believe in but is a bad person, or would you rather have someone who stands against for what you believe in but is a good person? Like that's really it's just a moral argument there. I think people just need to be more honest about that.
I think the moral person, like, okay, they're gonna be an elected official, right? And they don't agree. Their policies you don't agree with, but they're still a good person at the end of the day. Am I correct?
I was too busy trying to pull up a
I'm
source for
actually
you.
currently looking up this stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I'm trying to figure out where you got your information from with this, and I'm actually still trying to figure out if this is accurate or not.
I find an article from the Washington Examiner, but it says it's an opinion piece, so I'm not gonna trust it. But I'm going to look at its sources.
All right, so yeah, he did say in reference to Deason, Gloria Thacker Deason, he did say, as I recall, she was 19 or older. I never provided intoxicating liquor to a minor. I seem to remember her as a good girl, and he did happen to say, so you were accurate on that. So he did contradict himself there.
Yeah.
Because he did go on to say that he didn't know any of them. But I don't think that that's necessarily proof of him doing.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's not.
He could have just freaked out at first. I mean, he could have just freaked out at first to put up a story, and it was just bad PR on their part.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's not
necessarily means he did anything wrong. Plus, there's no evidence. And plus, a lot of these different women who have accused Roy Moore of stuff, a lot of the narratives have been crumbling.
Have they? All right. Well, you're right in saying that it's not proof,
Absolutely.
but it does. Yeah.
The other day about the yearbook being forged.
The yearbook was forged. Okay, that was one of the most damning pieces of evidence to me. For reference, the accusation is that Roy Moore signed a girl's yearbook. No kidding. Okay, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
All right, but you have to like Andrew said, you have to admit him changing the story, contradicting what he previously said. That looks terrible on his part. Now, it's not proof. Ain't proof.
I agree.
It ain't proof that he actually did do anything wrong. But man, it looks real bad on his part. Of course, with all these,
I agree that there's some
here's the thing.
there.
These women need to go to court. Accusations over the internet or in the media. You can't just come out and say Roy Moore sexually assaulted me when I was a minor. If he did, you're not taking the proper course of action. All right. So there are flaws on both sides of that here. Now, here's okay. Assuming that let's assume that he did. Let's just assume that he did do what he's being accused of. Would you still want him to take office?
If he actually is guilty of it, no. I don't want that kind of lack of morality in the Senate. But there is, like, absolutely zero evidence to back up any of these claims, unlike Al Franken, where there is photo evidence. In my opinion, there have been some inconsistencies there, but I think it was because there was another issue where Roy Moore had freaked out with the whole who was it? When Jimmy Kimmel had said, "Oh, you should wear that cute little sweater vest that you always wear," and then the Roy Moore campaign was like, "Oh yeah, don't take any more pictures of the neck below. Don't do that anymore. Only just the head." It's kind of a weird request of a campaign, but they have a history. Roy Moore has a history of doing this, where he's not good under pressure. It seems to be he's not good with that kind of press coming after him, so it seems to be that he just freaks out and it creates a PR nightmare, which I think is the cause of the inconsistencies. But I do not think that he did any of that. I do not feel that one way or the other, especially when you look at his wife. His wife is very, very attractive. They've been together for quite some time. I just don't understand why you would prey on underage girls with a wife looking like that, who I believe also used to be a model. I don't understand. I don't see the connection there. All I'm seeing is hit pieces from the left. This is all this is, to try to distort him and to try to turn a red state blue. This is all this is, the way that I'm seeing it. Now, when it comes to the left, there's been evidence, and I have another theory behind this. And there's also evidence to back it up. You noticed when it was a few months ago where you had the documentary An Open Secret come out. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not. But there was a documentary An Open Secret that had came out, and it exposed the pedophilia going on in Hollywood. And there was a lot of different stories that was leaking out from the media, mainly the right-wing outlets, exposing a lot of different pedophilia coming from Hollywood, coming from the left in D.C., coming from all these different big corporations, whatever it may be. When that started to come out at an aggressive rate, and about a couple of weeks after they released that documentary, boom, that's when the Harvey Weinstein allegations came out. Then all of a sudden, this hashtag Me Too movement started, and you have all these different women coming out saying, "Oh, he sexually assaulted me. He did this. He did that. He did that." And it eventually got to a point where it was like, we're all getting burnt out because there was 3 or 4 different accusations a day for like a month or however long this has been going on. All this is doing is covering up the pedophilia, the elite pedophilia. This is all this is. This is why, and I've been pushing this for a while on people. Don't forget what we've been saying before this came out, and it's still leaking out. We just came out with a story last night about a Disney music executive being charged with pedophilia. We had a story the night before where somebody else got charged 60 years for being pedophilia. He was involved in Hollywood. It's still leaking out. All this movement is to cover up the leftist evil pedophilia. That's all it is. And because if you notice, when Trump got elected, all of a sudden, all these different people were getting elected or getting arrested for pedophilia, and it was like an everyday thing there for a while. And all this is, and I'm going to tell people out there now again, don't forget about the pedophilia leaking up. All this is to cover it up. Hollywood, the media, leftist politics, all of these different entities, the elites, they're all tied together. They all have the same sources. They all have the same funding. They all have the same leadership. It's all the elites all tied in the same thing. And all this is doing is covering up the elite pedophilia. So the whole Me Too movement, to me, is a complete fraud. And as far as Time Magazine saying that they are the person of the year, the Me Too movement,
oh my God, yeah.
it's a complete disgrace. An absolute complete disgrace. So just keep that in mind, people. Don't forget about that pedophilia leaking out, and it's still leaking out.
Well, I think there is something definitely morally wrong in Hollywood. I mean, it's run by perverts.
That's putting it lightly.
Okay, how would you put it then? How would you put it then?
Absolutely.
Come on, Luke. How would you put it if I'm putting it lightly? All right, let's hear it.
Uh, you said there are a bunch of perverts running Hollywood. I would say there are a bunch of, rapists who would love to call everybody else out for what? What did they accuse of Mike Pence of spending? He's not alone with other women because he's married and all that crap. Wasn't that
Yeah, I love how they get mad at him for that.
what every?
Well, I believe it was Joseph Goebbels who was in charge of Nazi propaganda, who said, "Accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty." All right. I think, Andrew, you did make a good point. It's all to hide up what they're doing. That's got to be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and especially with all the Satanism and all of these connections to the occult, and it's a fascination with the occult that the left has as well. And it seems to be that their main agenda is to implement the three big things of a one-world government, Satanism as the main religion, and pedophilia is their crown jewel. It seems to be that these are the three things that the left is pushing for, and that's why, because what I dissect politics 24/7, so I'm seeing this stuff, and when I'm finding people out there who could still call themselves Democrats and say they could vote Democrat and all this stuff, and I don't understand why, because that makes you very guilty. That makes you yourself, if you vote for Democrat, you can say it's a radical belief all you want, I don't really care. But if you vote Democrat, you are an enabler of Satanism, globalism, and pedophilia. You absolutely are. Especially when you have why is the left so keen to protect Islam? Why are they so dedicated to Islam? Because Islam also has had connections to pedophilia, or Satanism and pedophilia as well. In my opinion, it's nothing but a branch of Satanism. But they defend this stuff. Why? Because it's going to bring in the destruction of Christianity, pedophilia, and it's not going to be pretty. Why are they so keen to protect Islam? Just ask yourself that, people. So again, I say, if you are a leftist out there, or you just call yourself a liberal and you happen to vote Democrat, I'm talking to you. If you vote Democrat, you are enabling Satanism, globalism, pedophilia, and terrorism through all these different links. Whether you realize it or not, you are. So I suggest do some research, get as educated and red pill as possible, and start voting Republican and make sure that it's the right Republicans, because there's a lot of frauds in that party as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why there's currently a civil war in this party, and I'm involved in it. So make sure you know what you're voting for, people.
Yeah, I think you're definitely coming off as an Alex Jones fan right now. No, but
but it's the truth.
No, yeah.
It's the absolute truth. Here's the thing with Alex Jones, because I hear that a lot. Well, it seems to be that you're just feeding into these Alex Jones conspiracies.
Oh, I don't...
research, you see that a lot of the stuff is accurate.
No, I like Alex Jones. I have nothing against him.
Because I hear that a lot. And here's the... I love Alex. Alex is my man. He's my go-to.
He's hilarious.
But here's the thing that people have to realize. Alex has been reporting a lot of this stuff 10 years in advance. But if you pay attention to other outlets, Breitbart is starting to pick up on this stuff. You even had Ben Shapiro, out of all people. The Daily Wire, you have pedophilia reports starting to leak out of that outlet. The Daily Caller is starting to get in all this globalism stuff. It's not just Alex Jones anymore. And we have to stop, because when people say stuff like that, you're discrediting Alex Jones as a Alex Jones fan yourself. Because a lot of leftists do that. Well, it's just an Alex Jones conspiracy. If you actually, like the frogs thing, what did he say?
They're turning the frickin' frogs gay.
They turned the friggin' frogs gay. What happened? But what happened? He turned out to be right.
Yeah.
So, it's not that Alex Jones is crazy. It's that the world is that crazy. And we are definitely fighting forces of Satanism, pedophilia, and globalism. You can say, well, it just sounds like you're an Alex Jones fan. It's the truth. It's the truth.
No, and I appreciate that. I don't like people trying to hide their beliefs to sort of make themselves look cooler. Okay, I say this about libertarians a lot. A lot of people who claim to be libertarians are just conservatives, but they say that they're libertarian because it makes it look like, oh, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm a libertarian. I'm an
The
intellectual.
people that call themselves that are the conservatives. Well, the people that call themselves that are the libertarian conservatives that have their are fiscally conservative. They have some social issues that are conservative, but they happen to be pro-gay marriage, which I'm not. Pro-pot, which I'm kind of on the fence about, and pro-abortion, which I'm not. But a lot of these people happen to say with those three categories, they happen to call themselves libertarian conservatives. I actually have nothing against libertarian conservatives. I don't mind them having that views. The loons of that party and that ideology are the pure libertarians who are out here talking about we have to defund police departments. It's the community's job to take care of it. Not that you want to defund police departments and fire departments and hospitals? What kind of insanity is that? And your presidential candidate doesn't even know foreign policy.
Oh yeah.
Running for president of the United States, and you don't even understand foreign policy. And it's these same people as well that sit there and say, well, the left and the right, they're just all the same, man. No, they're really not. They are really not. And if you are not seeing how the left, I agree with people that it's no longer left and right. It's turned into this blatant good and blatant evil. If you look at the mainstream media, some of the propaganda that they're pumping out, man, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but
Oh, keep going, man.
how libertarians could have that kind of mindset. But most pure libertarians are just, they're loons. They're loons.
Why, thank you for that.
Are you a pure libertarian? So you believe in defunding police departments,
Yeah.
and fire departments, and hospitals?
Well, yeah. People need to understand.
Just a joke. I'm not.
People need to understand that.
I thought I was going to have to break out of debate.
I just said that to kind of piss you off and try and set you on the way.
People need to understand that government does fill some legitimate roles. Okay, those roles being military, police. Yeah, the role
We need government.
for some things. Okay, I agree with you though. There are a lot of things we don't need government to do. For instance, why does the government give so much money
I agree.
to things like Planned Parenthood?
I agree. I think Planned Parenthood should be 100% defunded and closed down.
Yeah.
I don't support anything Planned Parenthood.
No, none of us do. My point in that.
That long ago, that could be privately funded for all the liberals that want it.
Yeah, it could be, but it should just be illegal. So.
A joke, and then a bunch of liberals hate it. Well, it has to be done in stages, otherwise you're gonna see a lot of resistance and not get it go through unless
There needs to be a cultural change too, because if let's say Trump just overturns Roe v. Wade, as soon as another Democrat gets in office, they're just gonna reinstitute it. You know what I mean? There needs to be a cultural change.
Yeah, but and that's why we got to push aggressively to make sure that Republicans keep getting elected. And I think Steve Bannon said it best. We are definitely heading towards a 300-year new American Renaissance. And I think at this point, I mean, can you honestly see? I mean, you could go by history all you want. Well, we've traded power. No, we have arrived in a new era in America. We have arrived in a new climate. And can you honestly sit there and tell me, with everything that has happened and still happening, that the American populace is going to continue to vote Democrat? Not that I'm talking about overall, not leftist states, because of course they're going to be indoctrinated, but the populace as a whole. I think the American populace as a whole is done with leftist politics. I think they're done with it.
I think.
Well, I mean, you see them posting out articles saying men can have periods too and all that.
Oh my lord!
Free love for everybody.
Anyone who tries to tell me that a man can get pregnant, here's something I will tell you. Okay, I was mentioning, if you believe that men can get pregnant, we were talking about one of our teachers earlier and her kids. You have the same mental condition as them, all right? You are functionally retarded if you think a man can get pregnant. Throwing it out there. Agree with it, disagree with it, whatever you want.
Yeah, but this goes back. this goes back to the same thing, though, of what I was saying earlier. Stuff like that is just a small little tool being used to push this agenda of where we just have to have a complete lack of morality and all be Satanists and pedophiles. That's all like, completely lose your sense of morality and reality. That's what this all boils down to. Whether it's a situation like that, or trans race, or transgender.
Oh my God!
It's what I actually had no problem with gay marriage. I actually had no problem with it whatsoever. But then when I started seeing how the LGBT community, or I refer to it as the LGBTP community, the way that I'm seeing them being used as a tool, and there's actually quite a few leftist gays out there that I have met who have defended pedophilia. One conversation in particular that I can tell you, and I don't know if she would want me to tell her name, but she works for Powell Media, I'll put it at that.
All right.
And if she wants to tell the story, then I'll get her to do something special about it. But she was visiting Europe, and she happened to be visiting one of her homosexual friends. And they were having a conversation about how there was an open beach, there was a nude beach, and they were kind of having a debate about it. Or it wasn't a nude beach, it was the fact that there was a guy that happened to be there and he was nude. And there were kids, obviously, at this beach. It's a public beach. There was a man there that happened to be completely nude and had his whole junk showing and all of that.
Ah, my Lord.
And he was sitting there saying that the little boy that he needs to learn tolerance. That's going to teach him tolerance. You are defending a road towards pedophilia. That is blatant defending of pedophilia. And that is just one example. There's been a lot of leftist gays out there who have defended this stuff and are also defending this whole mental illness mindset of there's over 350 different genders. Like, what kind of nonsense is this? But it all boils down to they want to completely get rid of morality and all that. And I feel like this whole thing started with homosexuality, and I personally feel like that if we had never embraced homosexuality as a society to begin with, we would have stopped this whole thing that's going on right now, this push for pedophilia. We would have stopped it right there. But as soon as gay marriage got legalized, all of this stuff all of a sudden got ratcheted up. We must accept transgenderism, and now you have transgenders and drag queens out here reading to kids, and playing with kids, and all this different stuff. I feel like that's why I became anti-gay marriage. And I love Milo Yiannopoulos. The reason why I love Milo Yiannopoulos is because I know what people say, well, he's gay. Well, if you read his book, Dangerous, he says there's a quote in his book, even though he is married and gay, he says in his book that he is anti-gay marriage, that gay marriage leads to a lack of morality. He is a homosexual saying that. God bless Milo. And this also might come off as a radical view, because I actually triggered a leftist actually saying this, but this is what I really feel like. Milo Yiannopoulos, believe it or not, even though homosexuality is an abomination to God, Milo Yiannopoulos, the way that I'm seeing it, is being used as one of God's tools. Just the way that Donald Trump was it just seems to be that God has gotten so fed up with the way things are going on in this country that he decided to grab a couple of wrenches and just throw them into the machine. You know what? Here's Donald Trump for president. Here you go. And here's a gay right-winger who's anti-gay marriage. Here you go. I'm getting sick of all your immorality. Here you go. And that's why I have became more conservative when it comes to gay marriage. That has nothing to do with me being a bigot like the left likes to portray. I've got a gay person working for me for Powell Media. He's an editor. So I'm certainly not a homophobe. And he understands how I feel about this, and he actually agrees with me that this is all leading to pedophilia and complete immorality, and I have no interest with that, and I think that we should cut the head off of where this whole thing started by reversing the whole homosexual thing as far as gay rights is concerned. If you want to be gay, practice what you want in your own bedroom. I have no issue with that. But don't be forcing it on me or my family or my friends or whoever it may be. And let's stop this whole path towards trans this and trans that, and it ultimately leading to incest and pedophilia. I just have no interest in going down that route.
Yeah, well, I think they use it a lot too to just like you were saying, God is just getting sick of it. I think they use homosexuality, gay marriage. I think they use that as a way to attack Christians. I mean, you see this when they shut down a bakery because they won't bake a certain cake. And these are the same people that say, "Oh, Twitter's a private company. They have the right to censor whoever they want to censor." But a bakery doesn't have the right to serve whoever they want to serve. You're not being consistent on that at all.
Yeah, and is Twitter necessarily, can it be necessarily be looked at now as the private company? Twitter has become a monopoly. There's not anything else like it. Twitter has become a monopoly, just like Facebook has become a monopoly, and Google has become a monopoly, and they all need to be regulated, like power companies, like water companies, and companies like that. It needs to happen because they became too big, and way too many people, whether you're right or left, has to rely on those three outlets. And nowadays, in 2017, to progress their careers, so they need to be regulated by the government. It needs to happen.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Okay, people will say, "Oh, we need to keep net neutrality because all the corporations are evil." Corporations like ISPs. Well, okay. Well, if you look at it, repealing net neutrality would benefit small ISPs. All right. Now, the thing I'm about to say is they bring up corporations. What are the corporations that are for keeping net neutrality? Oh yeah, Facebook, Google, probably the biggest corporation in tech. You think that they don't want to preserve their empire or whatever?
Oh, is that a question for me?
It's not a question. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I agree 100% with that statement.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to do more censoring? Facebook, a company that Facebook or Google, companies that have seen that have received immense, so much government subsidies more than any other corporation.
It'll be Facebook by far, just because there's a lot more political motivation. Just because Mark Zuckerberg has already donated to several leftist radical foundations. He's already been pushing for universal health care, universal income, and there's also the possibility of him running for president. So it's definitely going to be Facebook by far as censorship. It's all going to be politically motivated. Push that leftist agenda. Get those votes.
Yeah, well, I read this thing. Apparently, like Facebook or Google wouldn't be around if it ever had it not been from all the money they've received from the United States government.
I can believe that. I mean, look at Amazon. That's how Amazon became so big, because Jeff Bezos, the CEO, got so much money from the government. He's still getting money from the government. It's like, what is it, like $1.34 in subsidies, $1.34 per package that he sells that he gets from the government? Like that, I don't think stuff like that should be happening, especially when you have Amazon. And that's another, I want to use this time to tell people this as well, because I've been trying to push this as well on people. I am a capitalist, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you to boycott Amazon and hate Jeff Bezos just because he's a radical leftist. He's a capitalist at the end of the day, and he had to do what he had to do for his business, and he owns the Washington Post and Amazon, made both of them very successful. So I'm not going to sit here and say boycott Amazon, but what I am saying is please go out to the actual shops, and if you are going to buy online, go to other stores. Don't go to Amazon, because we have, and there's been a lot of reports out there where you have Amazon is making so much money and taking so much business away from other businesses that it's putting all of them out of business. It's put, what is the amount? I believe over, and don't quote me on this because I'm not sure if this statistic is accurate or not, but I believe it's over 20,000 businesses that have been closed down due to Amazon all across the nation. That's going to destroy the economy. So when you want to buy something from Amazon, make sure that you think about that. It's funny because I pulled up this Washington Examiner column, and there's an ad right here for Amazon. They are a powerful, powerful company, absolutely. Pro-capitalist, the way they're doing stuff, I agree. But make sure you protect the economy and protect other businesses, because Amazon is destroying things right now. They're becoming a monopoly, and when they do become an official monopoly, they're going to take advantage of it, and prices are going to be sky high. And you're going to wish that you never would have helped contribute to Amazon to putting all these other businesses out of business. So just when you're doing Christmas shopping, just think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're already seeing, malls all over the country are getting shut down. Like, Luke, okay, when's the last time you went to Midway Mall?
2 weeks ago.
Okay, you're not being very good for my example. Okay, but for most people, their answer is probably going to be, man, maybe like a year or two ago. Like, no one. Okay, I'll give you an example. For like Christmas shopping, my stepmom is like, oh, just send me a link to whatever it is you want, like an Amazon link, so that she can add it to her cart, and she can Amazon Prime it to her house in 2 days or whatever it is. No one goes to like a brick and mortar store anymore. It's just all done through online. And the problem with that is, I get the capitalist side of it because it's just way more convenient to use as a service. But in the long run, it is going to harm some of these other guys. But I mean, if that's the way things are going, then that's the way it's going to go. Like in cities, no one uses taxi anymore. Everyone just Ubers. Yeah, people are going to lose their jobs, but overall, it's just the way things are going. And nothing really much you can change with it.
Yeah, but that's just a part of one aspect. That's not even the entire travel industry. That's just one aspect of the travel industry. True. Amazon is affecting the entire retail industry, which is a dramatic part of our capitalist society. And when you're putting out thousands upon thousands upon thousands of businesses, those jobs do add up. It kills the economy. And like I said earlier, once they get to the point of where they build up to a monopoly, people are then going to start regretting it, because instead of paying $19.99 for a T-shirt, they're going to be able to charge it for $39.99. And who in the hell wants to pay $40 for a T-shirt?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if I can, I like to, everyone should just support a small business over, like you should go to a local restaurant over McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, that for a number of reasons.
A lot better food, both taste and quality, than McDonald's. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Any mom and pop restaurant is better than McDonald's.
And when you're going to a small business and you're putting money in it, it's not like you're giving money to some rich, powerful CEO. You're giving money to like some dude who has a family. All right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, I can tell you that for certainty, through the amount of small business owners in my family and that I know, that's who you're supporting when you support a small business.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even that we're anti-CEO or anti-capitalism.
No.
It has nothing to do with that. It's just protect the other entrepreneurs as well. It's not just CEOs in this world. It's also small businesses. If you want to buy something from McDonald's every now and then, that's cool, but also balance it out with supporting, like you said, mom and pop shops. So, I mean, whether it's retail shops, small businesses, restaurants, small businesses, whatever it may be, get out there and support those people, because that does help out the economy a lot more than you think, especially your local economy.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the same thing with one of the reasons I'm a supporter of repealing net neutrality is that's going to help smaller ISPs rather than Comcast. With reduced regulation, you're going to be able to see some small guy, start his own thing. And then once there's more competition, people are saying that neutrality is repealing it, make prices go up. Well, if you're an idiot and you don't understand how economy works, with more competition, prices typically go down.
Exactly. That's the way capitalism works, but of course they're going to push the socialist agenda. Of course. But yeah.
My health care.
But yeah, I mean, definitely get out there and support your local businesses. Definitely do that.
All right, and Luke, do you have any more topics, or can I get into this last one?
Let me see.
Because this is one I was very interested in.
Basically, real quick, Iraq declared the war with ISIS over, and Trump kept his campaign, fulfilled one of his main campaign promises within 9 months of being president of the United States of America. So, Logan, what's your next topic?
Okay, this is an article.
Actually, if you guys go about it, I'd like to get on that a little bit.
Oh,
Just want to say
give
why.
us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I could just give it real quick, and then we can move on to your last topic. Um, but with the whole ISIS thing, that makes me very happy to hear that. Actually, that makes me happy to hear that, and it seems to be very under schedule of what Trump originally wanted to do. And yeah, we absolutely need to destroy ISIS and Al Qaeda and all these terrorist organizations and radical Islam and blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. But I want to get this point across to people now, and this is another thing that I've been very, very aggressive. Do we have problems with, could you say that I mean, we don't have problems with it, but could you say that we have problems sometimes with radical Christians or radical Jews or whoever it may be? Of course, of course, of course.
Yeah, like
Radical
point zero
Muslims?
zero 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 1% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. But do we have an issue with radical Muslims? No, we don't. We don't have an issue with radical Muslims at all. We have an issue with Islam.
Exactly.
The entire religion. It's not just radical Islam, people. It's the religion of Islam as a whole. If you see what's going on in the Middle East, if you see, I mean, we talked about it earlier from day one. It's been constant fights. And if you pay attention to what's going on in Europe and so much video evidence of this. I mean, the whole Trump fiasco is what example this stems from, of video evidence out there of Muslim military aides being out there blatantly just attacking women, mainly white women. You have Muslim kids throwing rocks at white kids. You have Islam completely coming in there, and it seems to be that they're making it a focus to outbreed. I mean, the statistics of them breeding is absolutely crazy. It evidently seems to try to make it, but that's
A lot of inbreeding.
Yeah, it's the amount of rape that comes from that culture, the amount of pedophilia that comes from that culture, like you just said, the amount of incest that comes from that culture, the amount of violence. I mean, if you look at the statistics, Christians, Jews, it doesn't even compare to Muslims. It doesn't even get close. And when you look at the statistics and you look at the polls, according to Rasmussen, that's my source if anybody out there wants to ask, but Afghanistan in particular, 99% support Sharia law. 99%
That's
of
ridiculous.
people in Afghanistan. Then you have other statistics, like what was the country? I believe it was Iraq, where you had 80% of Muslims in Iraq, 80% who believe in honor killings of women. If you don't know what honor killings is, it's killing a woman who got raped. So just because a woman got raped, we need to kill her. 80% of Muslims believe that. And they're trying to bring this culture into Europe. They're trying to bring this culture into the United States. And I'm telling you right now, it is not a radical Islam terrorist issue. That whole religion, that whole culture, it's a complete problem. And what we need to do about Islam, and nobody, I heard nobody in America say this. And maybe it's because evidently, and I heard Gavin McGinnis say it best. The
Huge fan of him.
race has a very, very cut trait. A very, very cut trait where we want to take on minorities' problems and be so accepting, which is another one of the reasons why Europe has been so devastated the way they are. But what needs to be done about Islam, and I have heard no American, and Latresa Jones, my candidate for U.S. Senate, is pushing this agenda, and I have been continuing to push this agenda, that we need to adopt, I should say, the policy that Japan has in place when it comes to Islam, where we no longer recognize it as a religion at all. Islam will no longer be recognized as a religion at all, meaning we will not be going against the Constitution. That will then allow us to no longer recognize it. You can't publicly show, you can't have mosques, you can't have Qurans and all that different stuff. This is an actual Japan policy. That's why there's never any terrorist attacks or any problems with culture over there. We need to do that as a nation. We need to no longer recognize it and the Muslims who are still here, they can remain here. The illegal ones, they need to be deported, but you are not allowed to publicly practice that code because that is pure evil, and I do not want it in this country. Latresa does not want it in her country, and that's why we're strongly advocating for a policy like that. And you would think, well, that's a little bit radical. That's a very, very aggressive. No, this has been one of the most popular policies that Latrisa has. It is taken off the people. That's what people want. People do not want Islam in this country. It's evil. It is pure evil what Islam represents. And if you're going to sit there and say, well, you're a bigot, you're a xenophobe and an Islamophobe, well, that's fair if you want to call me that, but you're also an enabler of rape, pedophilia, and murder. So congratulations. But yeah, it's Islam as a whole, and it needs to be taken care of.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think most of our listeners are going to be on board with that, but definitely to anyone who disagrees with that, please do your research. There's a fantastic website. I believe it's called thereligionofpeace.com or .org. Let me just
also Jihad Watch.
Let me just look that up. Religionofpeace.com. Let me just make sure that's the right website, so I'm not trying to mislead no one. Yeah, go to thereligionofpeace.com. They have all the information you need to know about Islam. If you think you're uninformed or you believe one way, you're hearing our point of view, you are more interested, please check out that website. Fantastic website. But this last topic is actually an article I found from Powell Media, which is your site. Okay, report. More than a quarter of millennials would date a robot. That is...
I mean, it just shows how... I mean, how old are you guys? What generation are you guys in?
Gen Z.
Generation Z.
I'm 15. How old are you?
I'm 26, so I'm a millennial. So I'm very, very familiar with my generation, how mentally ill a lot of people are this generation. Yeah, this generation is completely lost. It's been completely suffered. I don't know what it was, but our parents were really bad with just babying us. Even my parents included, I could say. And a lot of us came out expecting that this is the way that the real world was going to be, and now that a lot of us, would not include me because I'm right-wing, but now a lot of these millennial leftists are realizing that the life doesn't work like that. They're now bitching and complaining, and that's now why you see all of the insanity coming from them. And there's an interesting theory that somebody threw at me with this of, well, you could kind of blame this on the infatuation with social media and technology and cell phones and all that different stuff. It could be. What I think it all boils down to, honestly, very, very simply, millennials are just mentally ill. The majority of millennials are just mentally ill people. I know a lot of millennials. The way of thinking is completely off. There's no logic there. It's completely Mafillins. That's all it is. There's no rational thinking with the vast majority. I would say 85% of people in my generation are completely indoctrinated and completely irrational. It's that bad with this generation. The millennial generation is a complete lost hope. That's why I'm completely grateful for your generation that you guys are in, Generation Z, which is the most conservative generation since World War II.
Thank you.
Very, very, very conservative, both fiscally and socially. Which I absolutely, and I feel Generation Z is going to be so conservative because I feel like the Generation Z is even more conservative than millennial or leftist. So that's pretty conservative. And I feel like the Generation Z, that's when they're old enough to vote in 2020 and they go along with the rest of the new right movement, it's like what I said earlier and Uncle Bannon says. I like to call him Uncle Bannon. A 300-year renaissance will happen in America. There are way too many right-wingers in this country. Too many people are getting woken up to conservatism. With millennials, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and the thinking is just going to get more and more and more irrational. And that is just the latest example, and it will get worse.
I think a lot of that is thanks to the internet. Me and Luke, for instance, we have access to all information from all over the world, from all time. All I have to do is type on my keyboard. Exactly. Like you're from Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're from Northeast Ohio. Okay, a couple of years ago, or not a couple of years, but a couple of decades ago, the only way for us to have this conversation would be one of us to get on a plane and fly pretty much across the country. And I've flown to southern Florida before. It's, I want to say a 3-hour flight from where I am. This instantaneously, all you had to do was click a button and now we're talking. So that's a beautiful thing. And I think, like me and Luke's generation's kids, who knows what they're gonna have access to, 10 years from now. But what's interesting about this article,
15 years, Logan.
whatever, I don't care. What's interesting about this article on your website, this comes from Breitbart, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Breitbart.
Okay, it's saying that this is mostly men over women. What I find interesting about that is, like, when a guy has an attractive girl, he likes to show her off to his friends and family, right? And that's understandable. It makes complete sense. Show off a robot. Be like, yeah, it'd be like showing off a car more than a girl. Because, oh, where'd you guys meet? I was browsing. I was on the Onion browser. I was browsing through the deep web, and some guy mentioned that for only $15,000 to $20,000, I could get a remake of The Hottest Celebrity in the World. But it's mine. It's a robot. I can do whatever I want with. And this picture you have, like, these don't even look like similar to real. Like, if I saw one of these robots, I'd be scared. I would think a science fiction movie plot was about to unfold.
Well, when it comes to that, I think some of the men are just mentally ill. But there are some men who aren't mentally ill and are actually considering something like this. They might be sane people, but they're legit considering something like this. And the reason why they feel the need to think something like this is because of the current climate, where you get to the point where you can't even tell a girl that she's pretty anymore without being accused of rape. I've even caught myself in feeling like that. And I used to be a huge flirt. Nowadays, I'll hold back so dramatically. If I see a pretty girl, it's like, well, what could happen if I do go up and talk to her? What is the possibility? Because you never know. And I think it's gotten to the point with not even the fact of that, but also that it seems to be, with the exception of the conservative women, but a lot of women, particularly on the left, the modern-day feminists, there seems to be a lack of morality there that I saw her as hash slut. Actually, there's nobody proud of being a slut. But the thing is, and you've even got Ashley Judd, or whatever the hell her name is sitting there saying that she's proud to be a nasty woman. And then is a hypocrite and say, well, I slept with Harvey Weinstein to get a role. But you just said you were a nasty woman and you embraced it. They have no self-awareness there. But anyways, that's what it all boils down to. Men, it's getting to the point where men, and this is probably going to happen with Generation Z as well, I don't know to the extent of robots, but men are just getting scared to talk to women. They're getting scared to talk to women due to the possible consequences that could come from that, because especially with the society, you've seen it, even with the people with no evidence, if a woman accuses him of something, the man is automatically guilty. Automatically. So men are getting to the mindset of, why would we even want to put ourselves through this and risk these kinds of accusations and ruin our career? Excuse my language here, but no piece of ass is worth that. And men are getting to that mindset, and I think that's why men are to go to robots, as weird as it sounds.
Talk about some scary shit.
Yeah, that.
What it's turned into, though. I mean, where somebody had opened the door for a woman, all the guy did was literally open up the door, and all of a sudden there was a rape trial. So I mean, that's what it's leading to. That's honestly the path that we're heading down. It's crazy.
Yeah, like there was this girl who was drowning. A guy goes in, saves her, gets charged with like sexual assault or rape or whatever the case may be. On that note, I think we're approaching closing time to the podcast. Oh, and now we're 30 minutes, almost 40. That definitely one of our longer ones. We usually just try to go for an hour. So, it was great having you on, man.
Oh, absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun.
All right. So before we go, just let people know where you can find them on social media and plug your website and your campaign, whatever. One thing I want to say before we go is I apologize to Teresa Jones, because her brand is now through the 6 degrees of separation attached to me and Luke. So I apologize for that.
It's all good. There's no problem there. But as far as my website, you can check me out, www.powellmediainc. That's powellmediainc.com. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew R. Powell. Facebook, just type in Andrew Powell, type in Miami, Florida, and look for a photo of a kek, a South Beach kek, I should say, which is also known as Pepe. It's representation for me because I'm from South Florida and I'm a part of the New Right movement. So it's just a whole representation today for me. And I also have in my bio founder and editor and chief of Powell Media and campaign manager of Teresa Jones for U.S. Senate 2018. You can check out her website, but we're actually coming out with a new one, a lot more high tech. So that'll be LateresaJones.com. More information on that soon. You can pay attention to on Twitter or Facebook to see when that's going to be launched. It should be either tonight or tomorrow, to be honest with you. But other than that, Powell Media, the campaign, and I got my radio show coming back in January. I thought I should mention that as well. And also buy some merchandise from Powell Media as well.
Yes, please give them your money. All right, thanks. For anyone who's listening, we will talk to you later.